All right, everyone. Thanks for being patient. Jim Coventry from RotoWire here with the Week 8 Start Sit live stream. Let's just get rolling. Got a bunch of questions sitting there. Let's get to the show. All right, we got Scott. Hey, Scott. McKenzie or Montgomery? McKenzie is, I've always thought, very, very game plan specific. I think they like to use him against slower defenses. The Packers have some pretty fast linebackers. They haven't been great. To me, it doesn't look like a McKenzie game. And I think they may have lost some confidence in him last week. He's been very, very iffy in some certain spots. I thought Khalil Shakir, and I can't substantiate this, I think he could easily come out of the bye being a guy for them because he showed well in his one opportunity. Montgomery's going to maybe lose some work here, but I still think Dallas is the one place you can nick them is on the ground. You don't want to pass against them, and I think this game plan is going to call for some running. So even in a split backfield, Montgomery's safer, and I don't think McKenzie has more upside. Scott, Jamal Williams or Jerry Jeudy? I don't like the Jets matchup at all. I mean, I'm sorry, Jacksonville. Jacksonville's out Shaq Griffin, but they're going to rush. They're going to put pressure on Russell Wilson in this game, I think. They're down another lineman. Name's evading me right now, but it's one of their better linemen. I think it's one of their tackles, and we've got to look that up later. But I don't know that Jeudy is a great matchup. He looked good last week, but he looked good at ripping. Jamal Williams is going to play that typical backup role, but it's pretty productive role. And so I would think Jamal Williams is probably your better bet here. They're playing Miami. Miami, again, it's good run defense, but I think they'll do the screen game a little bit. Jeudy probably has more upside if he makes a play. I think Williams has a better floor. I frame it that way. Knox or Noah Fant? Knox has got like 30 yards in his last couple games, and his sub, the one game he was out, he had about 30 yards, whereas Fant is like, he had a couple 40-yard games, but he's distally gets targets as well. So I think Knox is beginning to get a floor, but he doesn't have a ceiling. Obviously, anybody can score any game, and that throws it off. But I think Knox is stabilizing a bit. And I do think against Green Bay's passing attack, the middle of the field will be a little bit an area where they can attack. The outsides are a little tougher. I'd probably say Dawson Knox there. And then player props on Twitter at Jim Coventry NFL. I put a prop thread up this morning. 3 props there. Gives you all the rationale why. So make sure you go. And please hit the subscribe and like button if you're on YouTube. I know we're on different forums here. We got people on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. All right, Dylan, let's see what you got here. Someone offered you Cooper Kupp for Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. You still have Nick Chubb and Mixon at running back. Wow. You know what? I'd be inclined to take it. Josh Jacobs had a 3-game bender, right? And it's been great. But his first 3 games weren't great. More than Anthony. It weren't great. And I think it's a hot streak. And I think like this week too. I think this week New Orleans is no longer lights out against the run, but they're good and they're really attackable against the pass. And if Josh McDaniels learned anything from Belichick, he'd come in this week game planning pass heavy. I don't know if he will. But that said, Jacobs, this is the ultimate sell high moment. I know he's playing for a contract, but the first 3 weeks of the season, it didn't look like that. So, yeah, and Sanders, but you've got backup running backs. So I think getting Cooper Kupp, yeah, he's going to get the ball no matter what. Even if they trade for Brandon Cooks, that's going to make even better for him. I'd make that deal. Henry, you need 2 running backs, receivers, and a flex. So how many you got? You need 5 of these. You got Wandale, Higgins, St. Brown, Pittman, Swift, Stevenson. Oh, my God, you got 10 guys. Pierce, I'm assuming you mean the Pierce from Indianapolis and not the Pierce from Houston. So with the new quarterback, I'd probably sit him. And I still got to play Swift's healthy. So you got to play Swift. You got to play Pittman. You got to play St. Brown. You got to play Higgins. That's 4, and you need 5. So we get down to 1 here. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be really busy. They're playing Seattle. The outside corners are good, but he runs a lot in the middle of the field. So I think he's going to be in a potentially good volume game. I think he'd be my 5th. Stevenson splitting work, tough matchup. Irv Smith is a great matchup, but doesn't get targets. Dulcich, he's been playing great, but I think your other options are significantly better. All right, B. Alley, you need a flex. Darrell Henderson, Claypool, Curtis Samuel, Hunter Renfrow, or Zay Jones. Claypool actually has a decent slot matchup. His size in the middle of the field over Avonte Maddox, a slot corner for Philly, that's a substantial size advantage. The outside receivers are going to be at disadvantages here. So I think Claypool has a good matchup. I don't like Darrell Henderson's matchup against the 49ers. They're 2 interior tackles for the Niners are out, but the line is so bad in LA, I don't think it makes a difference. Curtis Samuel, it's a decent matchup for him. He hasn't been getting the same type of work he's been getting. Hunt has not looked good this year. Renfro's been real hit or miss with targets. Zay Jones just isn't getting production. And I don't necessarily against Denver. I don't want to play an outside receiver against Denver else he's a really good one. So for me, I think Claypool may be your best shot. And I got a couple questions on Insta here. And somebody had sent a request to be, and I'm sorry, can't do this. I got like multiple platforms, but and I'll answer your question if you put them in. Good morning, and we have Fryermuth or Wandale. It's a good question. Ultimately, Fryermuth should be busy here because, like I said earlier with the question about Claypool, I think the middle of the field is where the Steelers are going to need to attack between the pass rush they're going to have, and they added Robert Quinn, which you can plug and play him. I don't think he needs much practice time to do what they're going to ask him to do in the outside corners. Middle of the field is going to have to be where they attack, and Fryermuth has some like 70-yard games already. So I think he is safer than Wandale. I think Wandale will do well here, but I think Wandale could have more upside because, again, against Seattle, I think you want to attack the interior, and that's where he's going to run a lot of his routes. I think Fryermuth is way safer, but if you got to really swing for a really, really big game, I don't know if you can have it, but Wandale Robinson will be your boom bust where you risk, but you go for a little bit of upside there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Then I got one more Insta question before I go back to Twitter and YouTube. Damian Harris, Brian Robinson, and Algier. Brian Robinson doesn't have a good matchup. Indy's very good against the run. It starts at that defensive line. They're very, very stout against that. Damian Harris, he played 17% of the snaps last week, and I really do wonder if he's healthy. I know the game got out of hand quickly, but it was a hamstring injury, and again, Algier is a good matchup. They're playing Carolina. You know they're going to run the ball. It shouldn't be a high-scoring game. They're not going to abandon it. Algier should get you 15 carries and get some real yardage here. All right, let's go back to Twitter and YouTube here. Bialy, you've got, who do you mention a PPR? Taylor, Pierce, or Stevenson? I got to say Stevenson. And I just talked about Harris. If Harris is involved at least some, that'll take some of the shine off of Stevenson. And, the Jets have been really good defensively. They're even doing well against the run now. They're now, per PFF, a top 6 run defense. So I think that, Taylor, there should be some RPO with Ellinger. I'm excited about potential changes for him that could mitigate the line issues. And Pierce, at this point, I can't sit him. He's getting 100 yards a game, and they're getting him in the game even when the game script is bad. And let me see, I have another Insta question here. Thought I did. No, maybe I don't. Okay. And we got another one here. Oh, here we go. Looking for opinions. Need 2 of the 3. A.J. Brown, Waddle, or Olivier. Maybe you mean Olave. Wow. In my mind, A.J. Brown is a great matchup, but I don't know that Philadelphia's coaching staff is going to attack it. Pittsburgh's much better against the run than the pass, and I know Philly could win with either one. They want run or pass, but I think if you're game planning, you're like, well, we could crush them on the short passing game with a lot of crossers, and that's A.J. Brown's game. So Brown is really your upside play. Of course, Waddle has upside every week, right? Olave's going to be tough to sit. He's had like over 70 yards, I believe, in each of his last 4 healthy games. And so there's a lot to be said for that. Whereas Waddle's been like high and low, but they're playing Detroit, right? So I think your two shoot for the moon plays are Brown and Waddle. But I think if I'm starting him and I want more of a safe option, I think I'm going to go to A.J. Brown and Olave there because I think Waddle will have a lower floor than A.J. Brown, but he does have that ceiling. That's how I'd frame that one. I got another Insta question. I got Hayden Hurst or George Kittle. You know what? With Deebo Samuel out this week, that just opens up a couple more targets, I think. And Kittle's had not explosive games against the Rams, but he's done well enough. Now, Hurst will see more work because with Chase's out, they got to refunnel some of those targets. And, now Cleveland just shut out Mark Andrews because Andrews is hurt. I tend to think so, but they had a good game against them. I think I'd go with the talent there. I don't think Hurst is good enough where I'm going to sit George Kittle. I just make it easy like that. Kittle could have a big game anytime, and his floor has been decent lately. King D Love, half PPR, Jay Johnson, Slayton, Callaway, Zay Jones, Robert Woods, Hunter Renfrow. trying to process Jay Johnson right now, who that is. Don't know why it's not ringing a bell, and probably should, but tell me who the J is. Just tell me who I can't think right now. I just got to answer these kind of rapid fire. Tell me who the J is, and I'll answer it for you. All right, let's see. Bialy, you need a tight end. Knox, Irv Smith, Gesicki, Bryant, or Henry. Of the matchups, Irv Smith has the best matchup. He has the best matchup by far, but he doesn't get a lot of targets because he's going to run through Jefferson and Thielen and through Dalvin Cook. So that's if you would Smith. 5 targets, he could do well. He could do really well. So to me, he's the upside play of the group. And I know Gesicki's had 7 targets 2 games in a row. I just don't know if we can keep counting on that. And they might not need him against Detroit. That worries me. I think Harrison Bryant is a fair floor play here because he's been getting 3 targets in a lot of games. Oh, you and Juwan Johnson, the tight end for the Saints. All right. So I'll go back to that question in a second. So, all right, Bialy. So I'd say, I mean, really, of all these guys, none of them have a lot of upside. Gesicki had the 2 touchdown game. I get it. I don't think they need him here. I would take the best matchup and just say Irv Smith and call it a day. All right. So Juwan Johnson, Darius Slayton, Callaway. You know, I do like Callaway this week. 2 receivers out. They're going to throw the ball. The Raiders are much easier to attack through the air. They're middling against the run, but they're bad against the pass. And Callaway's been getting targets when Thomas and Landry are out. So but I think there's always risk with Callaway. But I don't know the other guys have enough upside to make me forget that. So I think Callaway has enough of a floor to match them, but I think he has potential where he does get throws to him in the red zone. So I think that helps a little bit. All right. All right, Johnny Football. You got DJ Moore, Wan'Dale, or Pickens, or Kirk, pick 2. So for Pickens, I don't like the outside cornerback matchups against Philly. I try to avoid them when I don't have somebody that's like unless it's a superstar auto start. So I'm going to sit him. And I know Kirk plays the slot mostly, but Denver's like ridiculous against the pass. And I think this game's going to be really, really, really low scoring. So DJ Moore, look, I know last week he had the great week and he gets targets, but this matchup's nothing to be scared about. AJ Terrell's out, Casey Hayward's out, their free safety Jalen Hawkins is out. So they don't get a passer. So I have to think DJ Moore can come up again. I have to think it, especially building off confidence with PJ Walker last week. And Wan'Dale's a good play this week because the middle of the field is where you want to attack the Seattle corners. Their outside corners are good. Woolen's really good. Mike Jackson's played pretty well too. So I'd say DJ Moore and Wan'Dale have the best opportunity to give you floor game, and they have a little bit of room for ceiling. Like I said, Pickens if I was gonna sit one of those 2, and I was hoping for upside, which I don't know is there, I would probably go Pickens over Wan'Dale, but I say DJ Moore and Wan'Dale. Johnny, Kareem Hunt, oh God, and Chase Edmonds. Oh man, I know. It's bad. I know. Hunt may get traded, so they probably don't want to get him hurt. I don't think they want to get him injured. My guess is he could be inactive. I might be wrong, but I think he could really be inactive. The rumor today, not the rumor, I think the report was, I think they published it out there. We'll take a 4th round pick for him. Somebody's going to give him a 4th round pick maybe. So I'm going to say Chase Edmonds because I think Kareem Hunt may be deactivated or active and not see any touches. If they can get a 4th round pick, they don't want to get him hurt. Josh Lou, Brian Robinson, Rondale Moore, Peoples Jones, and Paris Campbell. Brian Robinson probably is the most secure workload of this group. I know Paris Campbell has double-digit targets in 2 games. I get that. But but the matchup's not good for Brian Robinson. So Indy's front 4 is very good, but I think he's the best floor play. I don't think he has a ceiling here. Rondale Moore got me real nervous when he had 2 targets and 1 catch last week. That got me real. Peoples Jones has been a stud. 70 yards in 3 of the last 4 games. I think 50 in all 4 of them. And no David Njoku. So that means he's going to probably get a little more work. I know Njoku's a tight end, but he's like the de facto number 2 on given weeks. So I like Peoples Jones. And I'm going to say Peoples Jones, and then your second one's going to be risk reward. You want the safest play, Robinson, take a floor and call it a day. But Paris Campbell could be busy here. I expect Sam Allinger to run a lot of RPO, which means a lot of design reads in the middle of the field. And Paris Campbell could continue to see a lot of targets, but we can't definitively say that because we've never seen the offense with Ellinger. So it's going to be, Peoples Jones, and then Robinson for safety, Campbell for boom bust. All right, Delroy. Jacoby Myers or Wan'Dale Robinson. As I break down that Patriots game matchup, the Jets are lethal against the pass on the outsides, especially. I think you can get them in the middle of the field, though. And the pass rush is good, too, for the Jets. They're getting some pressure. So I think Jacoby Myers has a really voluminous game in the middle of the field. So I love his floor this week. I like Wan'Dale, too. I think the matchup's really good. I think ultimately Myers sees more targets. In terms of upside, I think Wan'Dale could have a big game. I think he just got the first time he got full snap share was last week. So I'm going to play Myers if I want a safe double digit, 8 to 10, 11 points. If I want to risk a 6 for maybe an 18 or 20, I think Wan'Dale could he has that boom bust. I think there's boom bust with him. Though Myers is safer. All right, next question. Thoughts on Prescott? So personally, I'm going over on that because I called last week. I fully expected the Cowboys would ease Dak in, and they did. 25 pass attempts. They totally eased him in. Now, this week, Zeke Elliott's doubtful, probably not going to play. They don't want Tony Pollard running the ball 25 times a game. Even before that, I assume they want to get Dak going. And I love they used play action quite a bit. They were not using enough play action with him before the injury, but last week it was enough. It showed me they were leaning into it. And I think when the matchup they have against the Bears have 2 rookie defensive backs. And I think the Cowboys have a big, and the Bears don't have any pass rush. And then they got rid of Robert Quinn as well. Quinn was getting double teamed. So now defenses could even approach them even differently. So I think Dak goes off here. Yeah, I think Dak goes off here for close to 300. And then Hurts. So you never know with Philly because if they game plan it right, you attack Pittsburgh through the air and he goes over. But they love to run the ball and they're really good at it. And if they do have success, they might not go to pass the ball. So it's very, very difficult on Hurts. If I'm game planning this, which I'm not, I'm going over because that's how I'm attacking Pittsburgh. If Philly's looking at it the same way, they're approaching this too. It's a big A.J. Brown game because you get those in breakers on Pittsburgh and they're screwed. So I'm saying over. Kenny Pickett, it's all going to be garbage time. Depends how much garbage time and how much luck he has in garbage time because when the game's close, he's in trouble. There's going to be a pass rush. The outside corners are going to overwhelm his outside receivers. There's not going to be much there. He'll have to work in the middle of the field. They're going to play in catch-up mode probably. And that's where it's dicey on Pickett. In a straight matchup, I say he definitely goes under, but garbage time could pull him over the top, and that's where I got to worry. Got an Insta question. Alec Pierce or Deebo Samuel? Deebo Samuel's out, so he's not playing. So Alec Pierce, 100%. Yeah, Deebo's out, ruled out. Kavan, Gesicki or Taysom Hill? Gesicki's got 7 targets, 2 games in a row, but I just don't know that that's sticky week to week. We've seen a lot of 2 and 1 target games, but you know what? They drove Taysom Hill, and against the Raiders, a shootout. In terms of the game plan, I don't know they need to come up with gimmickry to beat the Raiders. I think they could, at least score on the Raiders. So that's a tough call. And they both get. I would say Gesicki is probably going to get you 7 to 9 points. I don't see the touchdowns coming again here. It could. Hill's your boom bust. I'd probably start Gesicki for safety. There are going to be weeks where Taysom Hill's just not part of the game plan, and that's going to happen. So, but that's kind of what you're getting into. I think if you just look at every Taysom Hill, risk a low game, maybe he goes off. There's like no middle with him. And Gesicki, at least there is somewhat of a middle. King Love, Curtis Samuel or Alec Pierce? I'm worried with Ellinger that the RPOs that they're probably going to install are going to indicate middle of the field passing. And to me, that doesn't seem to mesh with Alec Pierce. So Curtis Samuel should continue to see decent target share. And I think it's a favorable matchup against Indy personally. I think you don't want to run on them. I think you can pass it on them. And especially where Samuel runs, he runs a lot of routes that go over the middle of the field. I prefer Samuel there. Iron Eddie, Sutton, or Cooks. I'm worried that Cooks doesn't play because they're talking about trading him to the Rams, and they're already talking about compensation. If that's going to be the deal, just like I said with Kareem Hunt, I think they sit him because they don't want to get him hurt. They put him on the injury report, and I don't know that he's hurt. So
I would probably play Sutton because Cooks could be inactive or be active and not see the field. I'm not willing to take that risk. Sideshow is on Insta. What kind of floor thing do I see for Foreman? Foreman's a good running back. I thought that last year. He's back from that Achilles last year. He is a good running back. And Hubbard's out, which helps him. Raheem Blackshear will play some third down back, and he can catch the ball a little bit. But Foreman should get you at least 50 yards. He should really, because Atlanta doesn't scare me at all. Nothing scary about that defense. So, and I think he can get you 100 plus in a touchdown. So I definitely think that that's the way to go. Brian, A.J. Dillon start for garbage time. Well, his usage has been terrible in 2 of the last 3 weeks. And I don't know in garbage time if he's the one they want on the field. And if they're down that far, do they even put their starters in? So right now, A.J. Dillon, until we see something else, he's real tough to start. I think he had 6 carries maybe in 2 of the last 3 games. It's not good. And their line hasn't been blocking well. That's been real problematic. So right now, unless you have no other options, and no, I'm a little concerned. All right, let's see here. One more instant question here. Better defense, the Falcons or the Colts? They both are facing bad quarterbacks, right? I guess I would say the Colts. Because if the Colts get out to a lead and the Commanders got to play from behind, that's where the Colts can build up points. Whereas the Falcons-Panthers game, I think it's close most of the way. You're welcome, Brian. All right, let's see what we got here. Next one. Rodgers, 234 passing yards. Bills are real tough to pass on. Allen Lazard is out. I would tend to say less than that. I always hate the unders. I have to play them a lot this year. But I hate the unders because it takes one weird play, like some screen that goes wrong and the running back goes 65 yards, and then that number is screwed. So I play this game 10 times, 8 times Rodgers goes under that total. Yes. Mike Sales on Insta. Robinson. So Brian Robinson doesn't have a good matchup. They're playing the Colts. The Colts front line is really good, man. That group is getting after it. Buckner and Grover Stewart's insane. So I don't think Robinson has much of a ceiling here. I think he's good for at least 40 yards because he's going to get some volume. And if they get near the goal line, he could score a touchdown. But I'm not overly optimistic on him in this matchup at Indianapolis. Again, he wrote RB2 territory. I think that's probably reasonable. But I don't see a big upside game here. I mean, like I said, anytime, they get 3 1-yard touchdowns, that could always happen for anybody, right? But I don't see that being the norm here. I think it's not a great opportunity here. And I don't know how good Robinson is either. Gibson looked better last week. Gibson looked way better. Now they're not going to go to Gibson. They're going to keep Robinson in there because Coach Rivera doesn't like Gibson, but he's going to get him work. So, yeah, not so great. All right, Jay. PPR start flex, Samuel, Montgomery, or Robinson. So Montgomery obviously last week was splitting work a lot with Herbert. It looks like it might be going that way. But Dallas is a team you can run on. And if it's going to be a hot hand thing, I think, in Chicago. From what I saw the last couple of weeks, when Montgomery got going, it kind of relegated Herbert. When Herbert got going, Montgomery lost work. Montgomery will still be the one who sees work no matter what, though. So I think Montgomery's in a decent spot. I just talked about Robinson. Samuel's a good play. He's going to get his 5 to 8 targets. And, I think there's a good chance that they're trailing in this game, and that might force them to throw a little more than they like. So I would say Samuel seems to have the ceiling of this group. And I think the safest floor, though, I still think the safest floor is Montgomery. I think Montgomery's your safe. But you're welcome, Mike. I think Montgomery's the safest floor. I think he's going to get you 60 yards pretty much, easily. But Samuel could, and he hasn't been breaking big plays. But I think against Indy, I think that can. I think there are some leaks in the secondary that if they get him the ball in space, he can make something happen. And they gave him some carries last week, which was good because he's very good on those. And he could make something happen on the ground, too. Iron Eddie, Sanders over any of these, Damian Pierce, Ken Walker, CeeDee Lamb. No, I wouldn't. Because, again, I'm not game planning. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I think Philly comes into this game. And it was a mistake. I'm trying to remember who played Pittsburgh last week. But when I said that game, and I wish I remembered who. I'm getting old, but I said that game, like, you don't run on Pittsburgh, you throw. And then the opponent came in, they ran, and they got screwed for it. And I think that Philly can run on anybody with that line, but I think they're going to come in saying, you know what, we could crush Pittsburgh in the short passing game, the intermediate crossers. I think that's the game plan. And so I sit Sanders for that reason. Whereas the other guys are all going to be focal points. And CeeDee Lamb's in a good spot this week. I'm very excited to see him. I think this will be his first game where he really pops for Dallas, playing Chicago with 2 rookie players in the secondary at safety and corner. All right, Shane, Algier, Benjamin, or Henderson, Standard Lee. Yeah, Eno's in a decent spot here. Picking up for James Conner, who's out yet again. Oh, that poor guy can't get on the field. But Minnesota's been pretty lights out against the run. So Benjamin's good matchup would be in the receiving game. But the linebackers from Minnesota are decent there too. So it's a good matchup in terms of potential volume. But in terms of actual matchup, maybe not so much. Henderson, they gave Malcolm Brown 7 carries before the bye, and they signed him off the street, I think. So I think more him in San Francisco. It's tough to run on them. I know they're missing their 2 defensive tackles, but their linebackers make it happen. I'd say Algier. Pretty comfortably. They're playing Carolina. Should be a close game. He probably gets 15 carries. Chance of some goal line work. So that's the way I'd go on that one. Kevin, Stevenson or Eno Benjamin. Again, Benjamin does not have a good matchup. He's going to get some volume here, but Minnesota has been like a number 3 run defense. They've been really good. And Stevenson faces a good defense too, but Stevenson is a special player. And they used him last week in the passing game, so he can get it done either way. So I'm going to say Stevenson because he's a way, way better player. And when they both have matchups that are tougher, give me the better player. Stevenson might see a little less work than Benjamin, but Keontae Ingram was a factor last week. So I'm going to say Stevenson. All right, next question. We have flex and receiver. Olave, Pittman, DJ Moore, Damian Pierce, Benjamin. Good morning to you as well. Olave's got to play. He's got like 70-plus yards like in his last 5 healthy games. There was one game he didn't. He got hurt. He got a concussion, only played 30 snaps. So Olave's got to go in. Next one's going to be between Damian Pierce and Pittman. So Pierce has a much higher floor. We know he's going to get close to 20 touches. Pretty much despite game script, he's getting the ball. So I think he's your floor play. Pittman's interesting because we don't know what Sam Ehlinger is going to do yet. I'm expecting a lot of RPO. But off that RPO, I think it's going to be a lot of quick hitters. And those would be Pittman's sweet spot because Pittman is great on those quick crossers. And the chaos the RPO puts into the second level of the defense gives him a chance to make plays. So I would say this, Olave for sure, Pierce for a very high floor, and he has some ceiling. But if you need to risk somebody going completely off or getting a 4, it's going to be Pittman. That's how I'd frame that one. All right, next question. Damian Pierce, 72 rushing yards. That's a tricky one because Texans are tough. And the Titans are tough, I should say. I'm sorry. They're a top 4 run defense. And if Brandon Cooks I keep thinking Brandon Cooks might not play because if they're going to trade him, they don't want to get him hurt. And if they don't, then my God, Tennessee can load up on the run. And Pierce might have anywhere to go against a good run defense. So I'm probably avoiding that one, but I'm leaning to the under, even though he's had 100 yards in 4 straight games. That might be total yards, but he's been a beast. I just don't know if this is a good matchup. To me, that's a trap number. That's a trap number that they want you to bet. And I would say it looks too good to be true. And I think it is too good to be true. Let me see if I missed a question. I didn't say her. Let's see. Brian Robinson, I went through that already. Okay, I think I'm caught up there. Okay, good. All right. Caleb, Lockett or Foreman at the flex? That's a good question, yeah. Foreman, I think he's a good player. I thought he was a good player last year, taking over for Derrick Henry. I was excited to see him play, and he played well. And last week, he played well again. When he's had opportunity the last 2 years, he's cashed like every time. Foreman has a great floor here. Lockett, however, they're facing the Giants. The Giants play a lot of man defense. Geno Smith has been very good against man. And to me, if the trends of them playing man and the trends of Geno doing well against man, and the Giants overall, they're not getting much pressure. They're bottom 9 pressure rate team. So Geno has time for those developing routes. So for me, Lockett has a pretty good floor and a really good ceiling, whereas Foreman has a really good floor and a more uncertain ceiling. I would be a slight lean to Lockett there, but I could see the case for Foreman. Dylan, someone offered you Cooper Kupp for Josh Jacobs and Miles. I thought I answered that one. No, maybe I answered one already. Felt like I answered that one. I said Cooper Kupp. Yep, Caleb, take that immediately. Yes. Somebody, I think maybe somebody's answering somebody else's. All right. Brian. All right, man. Good to see you. Glad you're here. All right. Yeah, appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Man, you say my rear ender. I think I asked earlier, but I forget to ask all the time. Please, if you're on YouTube, smash the like and subscribe button. I'd appreciate it greatly. And if anybody wants a couple free days with no credit card need to be on the paywall at RotoWire, go to rotowire.com/try. We got some great content there all the time. It's great to see what we have. Anyway, thanks for being here today. And let's get some more questions. I'm here till about half past the hour. If you're watching on rewind, that means absolutely nothing. But if you're watching it live, it means something. Because I got the XM show 1 to 2 Eastern. So I'll be on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Channel 87, 1 to 3 Saturday. And the Sunday, great 1-hour show. If you're awake, 9 to 10 Eastern, a 1-hour show. Go over all the late breaking overnight news. And we go over a lot of real pertinent information to get you ready for game day. All right, J Red, Rondale Moore, DPJ, Goodwin, Robert Woods, and Alec Pierce pick 3. So that means you've got to sit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got to sit 2 of them. I'm a little nervous about Rondale after last week. He had been getting plenty of targets, and he gets 2 targets in a game that in the first half where they really needed to throw, but then the second half, the game script changed, so maybe there's nothing to it. Goodwin worries me. One of his touchdowns came when J.C. Jackson fell and tore his knee up, and so throw that play out because, it probably would have been tipped away. So, and I think they're saying Metcalf might play. I can't believe that, but maybe. But ultimately, we've seen Goodwin. Goodwin's probably over 30 at this point, especially coming off a good game. I don't want to roll the dice that he does again. I'm going to sit him. Now, the second sit, I'm a little nervous about Alec Pierce because if they go RPO heavy with Sam Ehlinger, that might be in the middle of the field. And to me, that's slot guy Paris Campbell. That's inbreaker king Michael Pittman. That's not a lot of Alec Pierce. And the word on Ehlinger coming out of college in 2021 is that he doesn't have much of an arm. So that worries me about Alec Pierce. Because of the uncertainty, I'm probably putting down Goodwin and Pierce. Now, if you think personally Pierce will be okay with Ehlinger, then Robert Woods has had no upside. A very, very little upside. I think he scored a touchdown, but he's not getting any type of tangible upside. And Derrick Henry's going to run the ball all over them. So that would be the other way to look at it. So there, you know what? There is a good case for sitting Woods anyway. Even if you think, let's just sit Woods because Woods really hasn't done anything. Love Woods too as a player, just hasn't been working there. All right, King D Love on Insta. Rondale Moore or Callaway? Yeah, I was just talking about Rondale with the targets that last week, but he'd been getting them before. And I have to think that's a one-game anomaly. Callaway's in a good spot because he does get some targets, but he's not real consistent catching them. So I'm going to say, believe it or not, if I use the word safe with Rondale Moore, but I think Rondale Moore is safer. And I don't know how much more upside Callaway has than Rondale Moore here. So, but I do think Callaway could catch a touchdown. So I'm going to say Rondale Moore is your safer play, and I recommend him 60 to 40%. But I then think that Callaway does have a chance to get you a touchdown, so he may have a little more upside because he does get those red zone targets. All right, let's see. John, got you up next here. You need 2 in a standard league. Higgins, Gabe Davis, Ayuk. Oh, man, you are in a spot there. You got 4 great plays. Personally, I love Ayuk this week because Debo's out. And basically, Ayuk can run all the Kyle Shanahan routes. And I remember a couple of years ago when Debo missed time and when Kittle missed time, Ayuk would just go off. And they have the Rams defensive number. So Ayuk has major upside, but we never know how Kyle's going to use them. So he always has downside. That makes him a tougher call there. Gabe Davis has gotten exactly 6 targets in each of the last few games, but he's gone off on just 6 targets.
And I know the Packers haven't been great in their passing much, but they have elite talent. But I think they have the type of talent that would match up with Gabe Davis individually. It seems they're beating them on more gimmicky stuff, and there's nothing gimmicky about Gabe Davis. Higgins, I think you got to play. I think Higgins has to go because Cleveland's been awful against the pass, and Higgins is now the alpha, which they were co-alphas before him and Jamar Chase. So, and then Olave has just been a great high floor, high ceiling guy, and there's nothing to be nervous about. Nate Hobbs is out for the Raiders, and the Raiders were already a bottom 7 pass defense. And so, to me, Higgins and Olave have the best blend of floor and ceiling. Now, if you want to go for the moon, then Gabe Davis and Ayuk are risk, massive reward. So, but safe with reasonable floor, Higgins and Olave would be the calls for me. All right, Caleb. They're still having Mixon and Chubb. I got you. And then Dylan, Fax getting Jacobs in the 6. All right, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Delroy. Dalton Schultz, Harrison Bryant, Juwan Johnson, Greg Dulcich. So Schultz looked like he may be okay now. Last week he, produced a bit. And the Bears are not a scary matchup defensively. They got some rookies in their secondary, so there can be communication issues. I do think there's a heavier Dak passing game with Zeke not expected to play. I thought they were going to pass anyway to get him on track. Last week I thought they eased him in. I think Schultz has the best floor of this group. In terms of ceiling, they're going to Dulcich a lot. But I think there's a lower scoring game there too. I'm going to say Dalton Schultz because I think the floor is what I want here. I want the floor here because they all could do little. Dulcich has had targets in both games, but this is a really, really potential low scoring game they got going there. All right. Caleb here, I'm singing Jacobs. Okay, looks like you're all right. Let's see here. Ray, full PPR. London, Brian Robinson, Alec Pierce, Rondé Moore, Darius Slayton. I think Brian Robinson has the safest floor of the group. Unfortunately, the Falcons don't want to pass for Drake London. He had 1 target last week, so I'm a little bit scared of him right now. Alec Pierce, I'm worried about because of Ellinger, and I think the RPO would lean more to the inside passing game where Pierce is an outside receiver. Slayton is just really hard to trust him week to week. And so Robinson has the best floor, and I'd like that. But if you want a guy with, I think, moderate ceiling, but a lower floor, if Rondale Moore does get targets, he would be in a good spot. I do like his middle of the field opportunity in his matchup. But I think the floor play is Robinson. I probably would lean that way. All right, let's see. Kevin, Pollard, Cook, Barkley, Pierce, choose 2. So I like Cook this week. They're coming out of the bye, which I think is going to be really important for the Vikings. They have that new offense they installed, and I think the bye week is a time when they fix a lot of those bugs that they had. Cook's had a great floor all year, and I think this week we could begin to see a little bit of that ceiling. I don't want to sit him. And honestly, I find it very hard to sit Saquon Barkley at any point in time because they're using such numbers in the blocking. I mean, they're bringing in extra tight ends, extra running back. They're really setting him up for success. Whereas the Damian Pierce is a bad matchup if Brandon Cooks doesn't play because they're talking about wanting to trade him. Then that means a good Titans run defense would be even tougher. And Pollard, like I said, a wicked upside, right? I just don't think Dallas wants to give him 20 carries in a game. And I think they're going to be real pass heavy here. So I think Cook and Barkley, to me, have the blend of floor and upside that I like. Pollard is always tempting. Everybody thinks because, Zeke's going to be out, so now it's going to be all about Pollard. I don't think he gets this heavy workload. I think that they like keeping him in that moderate touch zone for whatever reason. But if you wanted to go with Pollard over one of them, I don't even know, man. It would be Dalvin Cook. I think Barkley, because of his role in the passing game, has the biggest upside of them all. But Cook and Barkley for me. Brian. Yeah, so like I said, Alec Pierce is a tough one. It's a wait and see though, because my thought is if Sam Ellinger has a weaker arm, if they're bringing him in, they want to mask the offensive line issues with some RPO, which would mean quick hitters, which would mean Pittman, which would mean Paris Campbell. And it would seem on the face Alec Pierce is the odd man out, but he's a pretty talented dude. And if Ellinger is something different than what we thought, and we'll see quickly. Pierce he's a good player. And so I don't, Duvernay's real gimmicky, right? He's getting some fantasy production, but I'm telling you, the week you're going to need him, he's going to do nothing. It's just because he's not getting enough regular volume. And they had players drop like flies in that last game. Again, he pops up. Now, maybe Bateman stays hurt all year. Maybe Andrews continues to deal with different injuries. But other than that, I think you give Alec Pierce a little bit of time. All right, Chargers, you got on Insta, Ayuk and Michael Carter. So I think Ayuk has an amazing opportunity with Deebo Samuel out, and we've seen it 2 years ago. They can really get him the ball in a lot of different ways. Ayuk is an amazing player. Michael Carter, we don't know if James Robinson is going to play. The coach was a non-committal. My guess is he may or may not. But ultimately, I think New England comes in and said, you know what? We want Zach Wilson to beat us. Let's see him do it. And I think they're going to just load the front up and take that away and make Zach Wilson try to win, which he can't. I'm going to say Ayuk fairly easily here. All right, let's see how we're looking at questions. I got a lot. All right, I still got 15 minutes. So I'm all right. I got to get ready for the serious show at the top of the hour. Brian, Brady also to play now that he's, you know what? I could go on for 10 minutes, but I'm going to make the short form of this. Brady and Rodgers are both struggling because the league has changed. What's happened is teams are using a lot of 5-man fronts. They're using what we call simulated pressures. And they're also not tipping their hand in their zones, and they're not moving players to the snap of the ball. So what happened was all these years, Brady and Rodgers had a cheat code. They knew what the defense was doing before the snap. Defenses have made an adjustment. Now they can't make that. All that knowledge they have is now useless to them. And then when these teams are getting in the red zone, if they're playing a lot of zone for many teams are playing a lot of zone for the first 80 yards, and then the last 20 yards, what they're doing now is they're going heavy man, heavy blitz, and it's changing the flow of the game. So Brady and Rodgers are being kind of set up by a system that's changing that they're not prepared for. It's possible when these guys come out of their bye weeks that they come out better, but I don't think the divorce thing is it. I think it's really the league has changed, and right now Brady has to learn to adapt to it, and it's not happening fast. I would be inclined to say Barkley goes over 89.5 rushing yards. Seattle is below average as a run defense, slightly below average, very slightly below, but nonetheless, I do think that there's a good chance he goes over, but I would not personally bet that one myself because I think that number is high enough because Barkley could get done as a receiver. So I personally wouldn't bet it, but I would have a slight inclination that he over. Nurse Alex, you have 12-team PPR. You need 3 of the 6. Lamb, Boyd, Davis, Cooks, Dalvin Cook, and Sutton. So I think there's a chance. Hey, Alan, I think there's a chance that Brandon Cooks doesn't play this week. They're talking about possibly trading. The Rams have thrown out potential compensation that you would go there. So I think he either be deactivated or active and may not play. So I think just because of that insecurity, I think you move Cooks out. Sutton's real tough to start right now because that offense is getting less and less confidence by the week. I think the Jaguars are going to blitz a lot. Their corners aren't great. Shaq Griffin's out, which gives Sutton a little advantage. But I think Lamb's in for a big week. Gabe Davis, it's hard to sit him because he's playing with Josh Allen, right? And then Dalvin Cook coming out of the bye, I'm expecting some of those little hiccups the offense had. They probably got a chance to work on those. I think the Vikings offense comes out better after the break. Boyd's a great idea, but even with Chase out, we never know what his target volume is going to be. And it could be tight end. It could be more Joe Mixon. So I'm going to go with those 3. All right, let's go next here. See, we got Rod. You've got Cook, Jones, Pierce, and Foreman. Should I play 2 or 3 and who? So I would play 3 of them. Dalvin Cook, I just talked about him, so I don't want to repeat that, but love Dalvin Cook this week. Aaron Jones, we always have to go on the narrative, and you're welcome, Nurse Alex. You always have to worry with the narrative. Aaron Jones right now, they find the Packers took him 7 games. Fourth quarter, all of a sudden it's like, you know what? We're trying all these different receivers, can't get anything done. Let's put Aaron Jones out there. Well, told you that in the preseason. He's their best receiver. And then, of course, he wins one-on-one and catches a touchdown pass. I hope they figured it out. If they figured it out, then Jones could be a great fantasy player the rest of the way. And then, the third one, it's tough between Pierce and Foreman. Because if Brandon Cooks, as I'm intimating, could be inactive because they're talking about trading him,
a Titans defense that's top 4 against the run may even have more bodies to commit to it, because I don't think Nico Collins is playing either. So I would think Foreman may actually this 1 week be a better play than Pierce. I'm saying it. I can't believe I'm saying it. Pierce is a stud, but I'm saying it because Foreman has a great matchup, and there's no Chuba Hubbard to take away those carries. Raheem Blackshear is just really a scat back, third down catcher. He's not going to take early down runs, I don't think. He took garbage time runs last week, but that didn't count. Cooper Kupp over 98.5 yards. Passing on that one, because coming out of the bye, I don't know what the Rams did offensively. The 49ers are very familiar with him. The 49ers are very banged up in the secondary. I'd be inclined to say over, but that, Tyler Lockett, I would be inclined to say over 68.5 yards, because the Giants play a lot of man. Geno does very well against man. Metcalf, I don't think he plays. They have him questionable. Don't know how that shakes out. But nonetheless, I think Lockett's in a really good spot here. Jay, you've got PPR, Curtis Samuel, David Montgomery. Oh, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And if you're out there on YouTube, please hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. It means a lot. All right. And subscribe. So Montgomery, we're seeing now, it's kind of like a hot hand approach in Chicago. But Dallas is the team you can get him on the ground. You can't really pass on him, and they got to come in with a run-heavy approacher, I would think. The mobile quarterback helps him too. Brian Robinson, I think, has a good floor, but it's a very bad matchup. Indy's very good against the run. Their front four is very solid. And I don't know how good Brian Robinson is. He hasn't looked at anything special to me. And Gibson got quite a bit of the work last week. So I would say Montgomery probably, though, has the best floor of the group. Even if he only gets 14 carries, that's probably what Robinson gets. And to me, Montgomery's a better player and a better matchup. I think the upside play with the downside risk would be Curtis Samuel. It hasn't been looking great for him, but he's still getting work, and they gave him carries last week, so that helps him out as well. Brady has been, Brady's been tough, man. He's been tough. Trey, Colts defense versus Washington, Patriots defense versus the Jets. I like them both, obviously. I like the Patriots here. Coming off a bad game, that's first thing. Second of all, Zach Wilson. And the Patriots, and no Breece Hall, right? And no Elijah Vera Tucker. That's a huge loss for them. So ultimately, I think the Patriots take away the run and they make Zach Wilson beat them. And to me, that equals sacks, that equals interceptions. I think they're set up well. I think they're set up really well. Hey, Bob, good to see you. Glad you're here. Bubba, pick one receiver from this group in a PPR. Thomas, Goodwin, Slayton, then rank forward. Michael Thomas. Am I missing a different Thomas? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if you mean Michael Thomas. Trying to think if it's a different one. But Goodwin, I'm not all excited about. We've seen Goodwin around the league for 8-10 years. He'll have a big game now and again, and then you don't see him for a month or two. So I don't think you can count on Marquise. And one of his touchdowns last week, we had it where J.C. Jackson tore his knee and he fell, and it was, he couldn't get the ball. He could have tapped it away pretty easily and didn't. So Slayton, he's going to be there for a week. He's not going to be there for 2 weeks. So if you meant Michael Thomas, I would rather just hang on to him and hope he's active at some point in time over counting on Goodwin and Slayton, because at least if Thomas plays, you've got a floor, where your floor with Goodwin and Slayton to me is always 0. Kayla picked up Foreman over Chuba. Yep. I like Foreman. Yeah, I still say Lockett and Foreman. Eno has a bad matchup. The Vikings are like top 3 against the run. I don't think it's a good matchup. I think they're going to have to throw to have success. Jay, man, thanks. Yeah, I pray to the fantasy gods always, man. We could give you the rationale for all of these, and then the beauty of the rationale is it hits much of the time, right? And that's the beauty. That's why we go here, right? We go here because we like the rationale of it. But yeah, it's football, right? We see these 0-7 teams beat these 7-0 teams, or things like that, and that happens. So that's football. But yeah, we get the rationale, and we get more right than we get wrong, and we keep rolling, right? Scott, Miami played Pittsburgh. Yeah, they did. That was about 30 minutes ago, but yes, they did. Yeah, that was a bad game plan. Miami came, man, that was a very bad game plan. All right. 270. You know what? I do think that they're gonna crush the Lions, and I think that the Lions can't stop the run of their pass. I think the speed is going to be way too much for them to handle. I would think Tua goes over. There's going to be a lot of yardage after the catch here. I think Mostert goes off too. I think this is a really, really big game for the Miami offense. Goff 260. Miami blitzes a lot, but they can't cover. They lost a safety. They have a corner who's down. Nick Needham's down too. So Miami's, oh man, I'm trying to think here. Miami's like the second best run defense. So I'm going to say over for both. Bubba, flex, need one. I think I answered that one, didn't I? No. Oh, is it for this week? For this week, I'm going to assume that Metcalf's out. And I'll go Goodwin over Slayton. The outside corner, I don't have Slayton against those outside corners of Seattle. Oh my God, Woolen will eat him up. Mike Jackson probably be fine against him too. So I would have to say this week would be Goodwin. Oh, you have a good day as well. Appreciate that. Thank you, Caleb. James Robinson. I don't know what that means. Here, James Robinson. Okay. Herbert or Goodwin at the flex. The coach, Robert Saleh, said he was non-committal on Robinson's role. And this could be like the Michael Carter show, at least this weekend, and maybe beyond. But for right now I got to assume Robinson may not have a role. Herbert is going to get some work. It's a good matchup. Dallas struggles against the run. They're going to have to get it done there. I'm going to say Herbert here. I think he has a better floor than both of them, and that's why I'll go that route. PPR, Higgins, Hopkins, St. Brown, pick 2. Oh, man. Hard to bench. To me, T. Higgins is an alpha. He was an alpha. He is a co-alpha with Jamar Chase, and Cleveland can't stop anybody through the air. So it's got to be Higgins for sure. And then, look, St. Brown plays. He hasn't been healthy the last number of weeks. If he's on the field and he's healthy, he has weak winning upside. DeAndre Hopkins, look, he had 50% target share last week. That's not going to happen, right? And it was catch and fall, catch and fall, catch and fall. He's the same guy as last year. He's fine. He's a good PPR guy. But, man, if he ain't getting 13 targets, I don't know what. And then last year he had 8 touchdowns in 10 games, but they're not getting in the red zone that much. So, to me, it's going to be Higgins and St. Brown when they're healthy. Hopkins is going to be the third option pretty much every week. Like I said, that 50% target rate, I don't see that happening. But, Borador, man, hey, oh, you're welcome. Glad you're here. Big Money Joe, 8-man PPR, need 2 receivers. Metcalf probably won't play. Lockett, Sutton, picked up Kadarius, Boyd, DJ Moore, Gallup, Redford, 7. You got a whole bunch. Yeah, you got a whole bunch. You just need 2. Okay, so you know what, Lockett, I like Lockett this week because the Giants play a lot of man, and Geno has been great against man, and Lockett's Metcalf's probably not going to play. If he is, there's no way he's nearly 100%, so he might be a decoy. So I love Lockett there. And you like Boyd, and so you know what? You like Boyd. There's no reason to go away from him here. Cleveland doesn't stop anybody through the air. Jamar Chase is out. Target streak you up. So you go with your gut on that. And the other one, I'll tell you, it's Tyler Lockett. All right, let's see how we're doing on questions. Oh, good. No, so we're going to get through these all by half of the hour, and then I'll be able to take care of business. I see Nate's in the house. What's up, Nate Jumper? Haven't talked to you in a while. Delroy, you need Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers. I know. It's come to that, right? Because Daniel Jones can run. And he will run, right? I have to think Aaron Rodgers gets his usual 2 touchdowns and 225 yards. I think he has to get that. So he's your safe play. I don't know how much upside Daniel Jones has anyway, right? He's going to run, but the touchdowns have to get there, right? I'm just going to say Rodgers. I know Rodgers hasn't been good, but I think he has that game that he has most weeks. And I think he has to show up to a degree on a big national stage game. I know that sounds stupid, but I think this is a big enough deal. And I know he doesn't have receivers, and I know Lazard's out. I still think he gets his 220 and 2 touchdowns. And Daniel Jones has upside, but he has a lot of downside as well. All right, JP, Gallup on flex if Brown is out with Zeke as well. That sounds like a great idea. That sounds like you give me not really a question, more of a comment. Yep, sounds good. Kevin, you're welcome, man. CB, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a flex, PPR. So you need 5 of these. You got, all right, Olave's got to be definitely in. High floor every week, high ceiling. Target share is great. 2, we got to go Amon-Ra St. Brown if he's healthy. Again, impossible to sit him. If he's healthy, he hadn't been. Once he's healthy, he has weak winning upside. And we need 3 more, it looks like. Waddle, again, as a player, it's very hard to sit, and the team speed against Detroit can be very problematic for them. So I think that's 3. And you need 2 running backs, though. So we've got to go to the running backs now. And Ken Walker is a must start every week. He looks like an elite talent, and the Giants are not going to be able to deal with him. And then the other running back, look, Swift is off the injury report. I can't sit Swift. If you do get nervous about it, I think Deontay Foreman has the best floor. Pierce has been beautiful, an amazing player. Titans are top 4 run defense. I think Brandon Cooks may not play. Nico Collins is probably not going to play. The Titans can load up to stop Pierce, and that worries me. So that's the way I'd go with that. Will. Flex, Connor out, left you. Myers, McLaurin, or Judy. Taylor Heineke loves him to Terry McLaurin. Last time they played together in previous years was like 25% target share. Last week we went right back to him. So to me, I've got to roll with that. I like Myers' middle of the field matchup, but McLaurin, he's just he's Heineke's guy, and I'm going to go with that because I don't see that changing, and there's nothing about the matchup that scares me with Indy. CB, Damian Pierce, Nick Chubb, Stevenson, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, flex, and a receiver. So Nick Chubb, I know Cincinnati is a good defense against the run. Nick Chubb is playing at an otherworldly level. Even his low games are good games. So I think we have to go with him. And for the next one, look, if Amon-Ra St. Brown is healthy, he has week winning upside. I love CD Lamb in his matchup this week. I think he's going to have a really good game. But St. Brown, if he's healthy, so if St. Brown plays, it's him. If not, I just talked about Damian Pierce. I don't need to repeat that. Stevenson, love him, but it's a tough match. He's splitting with Harris. Harris at 17% of the stats. My guess is maybe more this week. Lamb would be the option to sub in. And I just can't sit Nick Chubb right now. He just plays such a high level. Mac Jones, 185 in passing yards. Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad you liked the show. So I don't think there's a lot of passing yards. I think it's a very, very low volume game. The Jets are tough to pass on. The only way to move the ball is going to be on the ground, and that's going to be a slug. I think it's under. Michael Town, good. You're welcome, Bubba. You're welcome. All right, Jalen, would I drop Madison for Elijah Moore? Oh, man, that's a tough call, right? Madison is always droppable because you're banking on a Dalvin Cook injury, right? Last week we didn't see much in terms of snap share, so that wasn't so good. Hey, Nate, what's going on? It's your second Nate here. I got Jumper and Hamilton. What's going on, guys? So it would be okay to drop Madison. You're just banking on a Cook injury. But here's the deal. Elijah Moore, we don't know how deep the problem with the team was. They're going to have him back in this week. But is he falling out of favor? Are they not going to get him? Are they going to force feed him the ball? So I think Elijah Moore is a good speculative ad because if you'll know this week, if they're getting him involved, then you'll keep him. If they don't, then you're getting rid of them because they will tip their hand. If there's any week Elijah Moore's going to be involved, it's in the matchup is beautiful this week. He definitely could get on the Patriots, especially when he runs a lot of those interior routes. They use him on the outside a bit this year too, but I think they're going to have him a lot more on like the inside breakers. So again, I would make that move. Campbell's tough because I think Ellinger is going to do a lot of RPO stuff, and that RPO leads to those in breakers. It leads to Michael Pittman. It leads to Paris Campbell, and he has the targets, but we have a lot of uncertainty with Ellinger. So, I don't know exactly what. I assume Campbell remains heavily involved, but I think Jonathan Taylor gets opened up from the RPO element because now the bad offensive line gets covered up a bit. So I would say if you're comfortable dropping Madison, I would take a 1 week speculative bet on Elijah Moore and then see what happens and go from there. All right, I got to bounce through these because I got to get ready for the serious show. Legacy. You got to start 3 players. Would I choose Kamara, Mixon, Walker, and Etienne and Olave? And you need 3. All right, Kamara has been devastating with Andy Dalton, the quarterback. And you keep him there because he gets used as a runner and a receiver. The receiving usage has gone through the roof. Can't sit him. And Joe Mixon, what we've seen the last couple of weeks is Cincinnati finally stopped being predictable. They are playing out of the shotgun. They used to be, if they were under center, they're running. If they were in the gun, they were passing. Defense is doing it. Now they're even using play action out of the shotgun. Dude, it's awesome. So anyway, Mixon, I think with Jamar Chase out, now I think he'll get more touches.
out of shotgun, which is great. You've seen his yards per carry go up the last couple weeks. That's why. And the third one is you can't sit Ken Walker right now. He doesn't have a bad matchup at all against the Giants, and B, the dude is an elite talent. His elusiveness and his breakaway ability have been stunning. And I love Olave. Olave's a close number 4 here. ETN, the matchup I'm not happy with this week. Denver's going to be really rugged on him, but I think we're going to go with those 3. If you don't like Mixon, Olave would be a great pivot because Olave is going to get a lot of targets. So maybe you want to diversify from Kamara and Olave, but it'd be Kamara, Mixon, and Walker. All right. And then Bob's giving an answer, which is great. Big money, you're welcome. I'm glad. Oh, thank you for liking and subscribing. Man, that means a lot. Thank you. And, well, we're not going to talk to that one. Okay, we're not going to talk to that one or that one. All right, trying to spam me. Look at this. All right, John Dex. T. Higgins or C.D. Lamb standards. Well, that's a good – I think ultimately we can trust T. Higgins a bit more with Jamar Chase out. Cleveland's not stopping anyone through the air, and Jamar Chase is always primed for that big game, so we know that. Whereas I love C.D. Lamb this week, but even back to last year, we've yet to see him have the elite games. So I think we just say we're going to call T. Higgins, and we're going to call it a day. All right. And CB, you're welcome. And I'm going to round these questions out. Okay, Will, thank you for subscribing, man. Thank you. I'm here on Sundays, by the way, guys. The London games, it's always Saturday. When there's no London games, it's every Sunday, 2 hours before the early games kick off. Delroy, Pierce or Carter? I'm going to still say Pierce here because I'm not quite sure. I expect Carter to have a role here, a bigger role, but I don't know if they're going to have Robinson in or out. But at least Pierce, I know I got a floor. But if you want to swing for the fence, because I don't think Pierce is an upside week. So if you want to go boom bust, then I go Michael Carter. But if you want a safe play, it's got to be Pierce. Legacy, you're welcome. Delroy, you're welcome. And John Dax, I'm glad you feel better. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging with me. Everybody have a great